From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swarwell to Silverlink. Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
Look, I know we're a footy show. Morning, boys. Morning. We're a footy show, but did you hear that in the news there? 32 degrees in the UK this week, getting up to about 28, 29 here in God's country in the North East.
Big thank you to Rye for sending that over.
Yeah, I was just going to say...
You are more than welcome. I'll need it back come summertime, but you are more than welcome.
One in the eye for the Aussies. That's all I can say. We can't win the Ashes. we're crap at rugby, but at least we've got the weather. What is it? What was it?
Sunderland were on Saturday.
What was that, Macca? Yeah, good stuff. So at least we can win the weather stakes. What is it with you, Rye? What have you had today?
We had a bad storm last night, but we got about 20 today, I think. So
just 20.
We're just a couple of days into spring here, though, so the flowers are looking great. And as a main gardener now, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to continue talking gardening for the next 10 days because football's crap.
We've still got a bad storm brewing over Tyneside as well, Dave.
Oh, no.
Botman's injury might go on past Brentford. We've now got Joe injury problems have mounted up and he's going to be out till October. We've got Alex Murphy now who is going to be sidelined, the youngster, so there's another one. Yep. And on the top of all that, Newcastle fans who are trying to book Champions League travel are finding that the prices are going up dramatically on boats, planes and automobiles. It's an absolute nightmare. So Newcastle fans aren't happy at the moment, and the chatter on social media is far from positive.
No, not good. Not that we would ever suffer from the same. Well, we did once. We got into the UEFA Cup, which was great, all the way to the final. Yeah, we did. But as for Sunderland, well, Macca, when were you last in Europe?
All right.
Okay, mate. Sorry.
Be nice, Dave,
we're just starting as we mean to go on this morning. Absolutely. We've got to find... Look, we're Borough fans, myself and Ryan. We've got to find some fun from somewhere because we're not having it on the pitch.
No, we're not. And we've only got the cup run to be thankful for this season. And apart from that, it's bottom of the table still and... a long wait for an international break to come to an end so that we can get back and see what Carrick can do with this squad.
We are, unlike Newcastle and Sunderland, we are the strongest team in the division, holding everybody else up. So there you go.
But Michael Carrick says he's going to turn it round. That's the interesting thing. And we had Rye on yesterday talking about a restart, a reprogramming, a reboot, whatever you want to call it. That's what Michael Carrick was saying. Now he thinks he has the players to revive the fortunes of Middlesbrough. What did you make of that interview where he came out and said that? Then, Rye, is this the start? I mean, Dave says you're at the bottom of the league and you're the strongest team in the league. I know we always have a laugh when we hear that. It is early days. The cup run.
It is.
Don't blame me.
But you've got an opportunity to turn things around. The big thing is you've got to wait till after the international break. But is Michael Carrick going to do that? Do you think, Ryan? Have you got a bit of faith now that you've got a few players in?
I think the thing for me is obviously not. I don't want to hear after 4 or 5 games in the manager ever saying we need to restart and reboot. Do you know what I mean? I feel like the end of season and coming into a new season, you want to be already past that sort of aspect of having to reboot and restart. But it really is what we need now that we've got the transfer window shut. We've got the players in that we want. We've got the signings are all done. There's no more ins or outs. So now it's pretty much up to Carrick to get the performances on the pitch. And if he feels the reboot and the restart for players' attitudes or gelling the squad together is what's needed, then I guess that's what's needed at the moment. I believe in Michael Carrick. I believe in the coaching staff he's got there. I was interested to see a comment yesterday on social media actually that Middlesbrough social media is pretty bad at the moment. It's either sack Carrick or please don't talk about sacking Carrick. There seems to be a bit of back and forth for that. But one of the comments that I thought was quite interesting was whether Michael Carrick's got enough experience around him. We've obviously got Jonathan Woodgate and Aaron Danks as his 2 other coaches, but they're 2 both relatively young coaches. Obviously, we've seen Jonathan Woodgate have a chance at first team management, obviously through Middlesbrough, and then he obviously went to Bournemouth and had a bit of a run there as well. But in terms of experience and old heads, he doesn't really have that around him. There was a talk that he was going to get Rene Mulston, who was a friend of his from the United days, but he's obviously actually with the Australian team as an assistant coach to Graham Arnold. So he turned the opportunity down. But there was a good comment there. I wonder if there is scope to bring in an older head to help Michael in some of that aspect. But I believe in Michael. I believe in the coach that he is, and I believe that in the man management that he's got. But, look, I think that's enough about Middlesbrough, because the top line for me today in the notes we get, Steve, was it seems that things aren't going well for Newcastle United at the moment. So let's focus on that, shall we?
They're definitely not. But I'm going to do a Chrissy Waddle shoulder shrug here and swerve into a topic that I did suggest last week, but we didn't get round to, and that's TV documentaries. Now I finally managed to watch all 4 episodes.
Good manoeuvre.
Of We Are Newcastle United. And it's interesting because I've discussed this on my podcast, and I think the consensus of opinion is that Newcastle fans aren't really that impressed with We Are Newcastle United. I described it as a televisual, pamphlet. It was like a I wouldn't say propaganda, but it was more like an advertising brochure. It was, We Are Newcastle United. So if you want to come and plough your money in, then come and, if you want to take out your sponsorship, come and do it. There wasn't enough football on there, as in, in the dressing room, the ups and downs of a football season. And I got the feeling it was going to be like that from the start, because the very first episode, by the time the end of the first episode came about, we're into February. And there was still 3 episodes to go, we're nearly in the Carabao Cup final, and I'm thinking, well, where are they going to go with the other 3 episodes? I felt there was a little bit too much of Darren Eales on there. Not that I dislike Darren Eales, he's doing a great job, but I just think there was too much of Darren Eales. Obviously, Amanda and Mirdad are going to feature because they were the people who spearheaded the campaign to take the club over. I didn't think we saw enough of Dan Ashworth. Now the guy might be camera shy, might not want to give too much away. I thought it would have been nice to hear something from the guy who takes a lot of credit for what happened at St George's Park with England. Was the man behind the Brighton Revolution, and is now helping Eddie Howe build what Shankly would call a bastion of invincibility. So for me, I think there should have been a bit more of him. Eddie Howe, by his own admission, doesn't like doing these things, so there wasn't too much of him, but we did have that classic Man United moment where we heard that team talk which went on to inspire the lads to beat Manchester United. But overall, I give it a 5 out of 10. If it had been a school report, I would have put could do better. And I just wondered what your thoughts were like on you may not have seen that documentary, but documentaries as a whole. And I know Macca can really comment on this because, of course, Sunderland was one of the Sunderland back in the day, and I think Dave will probably remember this. Yeah, trendsetters. Macca, Peter Reid. And that documentary was such a fly on the wall. We heard a lot of Gillian Keegan-esque kind of language in the Peter Reid one. A few expletives. But then they went on to do the next one on Amazon, which of course a lot of people felt was an embarrassment at the club. But I would have rather had a fly-on-the-wall documentary like those 2 Sunderland ones than what we ended up with at Newcastle. I just wanted to know what everyone's thoughts were. Maybe Macca, because you've had 2 done over the years.
Yeah, I think Premier Passions was brilliant. I listened to that, and it was, you got a really good insight on with what goes on. And then obviously the documentary came out on Netflix, and it's interesting, isn't it, when you hear fans of other clubs, because Sunderland got a lot of credit from fans of other clubs, and a lot of people came up to me and said, I love that documentary on Netflix. But as a Sunderland fan myself, I wasn't a big fan of it, simply because it wasn't a true reflection of the club, in my opinion. It wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't, it was interesting. It was insightful. It was, because I sort of heard what went on transfer windows and stuff, and how clubs put money up for players and stuff like that. But a lot of it, you think to yourself, oh my God, we are embarrassing ourselves here as well. Do we really need to do this? So yeah. And then obviously I had fans sort of upset on the documentary when it wasn't going right and stuff. And Yeah, it did touch your heart and did sort of leave a lump in your throat, but yeah, and then when obviously going to all the matches and you're remembering certain parts of like the matches and when they're being played out on the documentary, and you're remembering certain things that were said in interviews and all that, and you think, oh, I remember that, and yeah, it was, but it was good, and I think it sort of paved the way for other teams with documentaries, didn't it? I think Arsenal brought one out and others as well, so yeah.
See, I enjoyed the Arsenal one because, I mean, those All or Nothing documentaries were really good, I think, and I mean, they were 8 episodes long. Newcastle's was only 4 episodes long. I think All or Nothing Arsenal was pretty good. I mean, that was really in-depth with the football and the dressing room stuff. What I found interesting there was all the different Premier League away dressing rooms, and how, you know, I mean, Newcastle's is really small and claustrophobic. Some of them were quite spacious, but they're obviously psychologically set up to make the team feel as unwelcome as possible. Lack of space to put things. The Spurs one was like kamikaze with Mourinho's meltdown at various occasions, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
But there's been some good ones. Have Borough ever done one?
No.
Not that I can remember, no. We've never really had any sort of insight to the club in that sort of focus. I think we've always been quite protective, I think, of their behind the closed doors. It's something that Middlesbrough, I don't know if they've done well in or
could
or
you
not,
imagine them doing one?
I don't think so. Not in the current age. No, I don't think so. We just, every time you sort of get questions and all that out of the club, I guess you get, you know, they look after you and stuff like that, but they still, I think it's like one of those protect their own sort of thing, and I kind of like it. I kind of like that the inner sanctum is protected and the players are sort of protected from it. It just sort of shelters them a bit, I guess.
It is a surprise that Borough haven't, because they were the first club in the world to launch their own TV channel. I mean, a lot of people don't know that. Borough TV, yeah.
Were they really?
Yeah, and sadly I was the presenter. If ever you get onto YouTube, Stephen, I know you do that. You want to do this all the time, looking at Borough content. But have a look at the Chris Rea. This is embarrassing. This is very, very hugely embarrassing. Have a look at the FA Cup song, Chris Rea, Let's Dance. You see the first 2 seconds of the video. You'll see a clip of a very young Dave Roberts sitting with Janino and Craig Hignett. But yeah,
Dave, lad.
I know Borough were the first in that score. So you would think automatically they would look towards what can they embrace next? You know, if they were leading in that field. But no, they haven't done it. But if I can just go back to the Sunderland one, I thoroughly enjoyed Sunderland Till I Die. Now I don't know whether it was because I'm a Borough fan and it came at not a good time in Sunderland's history, and I enjoyed that part of it, or whether I genuinely enjoyed the doco for what it was. But let's not forget, it put Fulwell 73 right on the map in terms of a production company. Now they're based in LA, now they're doing I Am Bolt and everything else. I mean, when I was at FIFA, they were producing a lot of content for us for FIFA Plus in the original areas, original content production areas. So, you know, it's not only put Sunderland on the map at the time, it's also put the production company firmly on the map.
Yeah, good bunch of lads. Them. I worked for them on a film a few years ago, and they've just gone from strength to strength, and you know they're doing a great job for the North East. But yeah, you're right. I'm the same. I mean, obviously as a rival club, you do snigger at some of the things that happen on that Sunderland documentary, but ultimately it was a good watch, and I think we all remember the transfer dealings when they were trying to sign Will Grigg. I mean, that was comical. That was comical, and then I mean, it really was. It was comical, and I mean, I think they made there's a couple of characters who, you know, if they were chocolate, they would eat themselves in it, and I think that was what made it. It was all about the characters, and that's what I'm saying about the Newcastle one. It wasn't. A lot of it, you got a feeling was stage managed by the club. You felt ultimately that the club were, you know, in control about a little bit more than the production team, and I think, you know, Ian Merter and I have discussed this. Who obviously does Friday nights. He and I have discussed it. Ian's not a fan of the Saudi takeover. He's he's been very vociferous about it. I've spoken to another journalist who works around the world, Ben Jacobs. He's another one who wants transparency from the Saudi ownership, and I think that was an ideal opportunity to give at least a little bit more, especially if you're in control of the documentary. Maybe the chairman could have given a little bit more. He was interviewed on the programme, and I thought his interview was good. But I think if there was an opportunity to come out and have your say about certain things, that was an opportunity to do it, and it was a missed opportunity for me on that score. And I think genuinely, if there was another one, it's a question I've asked Newcastle fans, again on the podcast, and just people in general who I speak to, if there was another one, would you be as inclined to watch it if it was the same kind of fare? So maybe if people want to text in, 0330 432002.
Well done, Steve, but almost.
Well done, Steve.
It's 0330 2002. You got it. You missed a zero out, mate. But what's a zero between friends and rivals?
It prompted you to get it right, mate.
Yay! Good lad. I need a poke every now and again, particularly this time.
But I want to know what people's views are on the documentary. Did you enjoy it? Was it more like an advertising campaign? Was it something that you would watch again? I mean, for me, it was a damn squib, and I'd give it 5 out of 10.
I think the point on these is the element of control, because clubs are nervous about opening the doors. And these will be clubs not just across the country; it'll be across the world. Opening the doors and letting people in with they're not live cameras, but effectively it depends on that agreement they have with the production company. And that's my main business, producing TV programs. That's what we do. Yeah. The parent company that owns these 3 radio stations produces live and post-produced TV programs. So it's all about control. And there was an interesting one on a FIFA documentary we produced when I was working for FIFA. It was called Captains. And this was a series that followed 6 national team captains on their journey through World Cup qualifying through to the World Cup. And it included Thiago Silva of Brazil and then Vanuatu and Brian Caltech, who was the captain of Vanuatu, who were never going to qualify, but it followed their journey as well. So, but the embarrassing thing, I suppose, was for Brazil, our cameras were there on the ground when the game against Argentina was called off. When the local law enforcement walked onto the field in a World Cup qualifier in Argentina and called the game off, well, our cameras were there. So there's always that risk element, and I think it's that risk element that many clubs would be uncomfortable with.
I think there's got to be some sort of secrecy to it, because, I mean, and we've seen it with Middlesbrough, and there is a big risk, and if the club's in control of it and they're saying, all right, you can go here and talk to them, but you can't go there and talk to them, then that's not really what you want to see in a documentary, is it? I refer back to the one that I've just watched recently in the Peter Crouch film. I'm not sure if any of you boys have seen that one, but I thought that was really insightful for just focusing on one player, and one obviously well-known player in Peter Crouch, but he was able to sort of focus in on what his experiences were, taking it away from the club, but what his experiences were as a player and how he felt when he was moving around different clubs and the different setups and the different managers and stuff like that. So instead of looking at the club point of view and what they, and what they wanted to show you, and sometimes what probably they don't want to show you, I really liked sort of that insightfulness of focusing it on one player, because I do feel like there are some control mechanisms, and there has to be, of course, but you're not going to show it. Obviously, we are Arsenal. You're not going to show Mikel Arteta blowing up at Odegaard, on a Monday morning because he was late to training, are you? Because that's just, poor form from Arsenal, and Arsenal would control that with Amazon Prime and everything like that. So there is a sense of, for me, in the documentaries, we will show this and won't show this sort of thing, and I don't really like that. I think in a documentary, the best documentaries that I've ever seen are ones that are raw and unedited, if you will, and not protected in any sense of form. Some good ones
out there at the minute, mate. I've just watched the Ricky Hatton one, which is on Sky Documentaries, which is fantastic, wonderful piece of filmmaking. That, and there's a great one about the Williams sisters, the tennis players as well. Which is going on,
I have seen that one as well.
Which focuses on her dad. And if you've got time, make sure you watch the McEnroe one as well. Which I always like those kind of anti play, those ones who've got a little bit of rogue in them, and McEnroe was superb. And again, you just don't know what the problem is sometimes behind the scenes. Why did he used to react in such a way? But the football ones are good as well. I'm going to watch the Crouch one on your recommendation now, but I've got to be honest,
it's good. It is actually good.
I've never really been the way that he comes across. I've never been inclined to sit and watch him. But if it's a documentary about his career, I'll give that a watch. Right?
Yeah,
it was actually my old man who put me onto that one, because he's not a football fan. He's obviously, my dad's, been an Australian AFL fan all his life, and he's, obviously with my love for Middlesbrough and that, he sort of is coming around to it, and he sat down and watched it, and he said, "Look, I'm not a football fan. I didn't really know much about Peter Crouch. I knew the name. I knew." His history in terms of what we see here in Australia, but he said he loved it. It gave him like the perfect insight into what it's like to be a footballer, and to the criticism of being a lanky lad as well, and all that sort of stuff. So he really enjoyed it and put me onto it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I think it's as for me, like being an ex-military, I love like the Afghanistan documentaries and the raw unedited versions of that. And I think for me, if you're going to do one on football, then you need to show as a documentary, because movies are fiction, right? Fiction and fact and all that sort of stuff. For a documentary, it needs to be factual. It needs to be, this is the good days and this is the bad days. Yeah. And I think people that have good and bad days normally need to see that their club, how they handle a bad day and how do they handle a good day. And
that's the key to success in these, is you can't sanitize them, because they become boring. No. They become PR tools. And fans will switch off and viewers will switch off. I'd be interested on Macca's take of the Sunderland Till I Die. You did get to see an awful lot of, I'm not saying super negative stuff, but, deals breaking down, problems within the club, how they were trying to deal with it. I mean, did you feel embarrassed at all, or were you actually interested to find out more about what happens behind the scenes?
A bit of both, really. Even the first one, when they had you heard, well, obviously I suppose it's a little bit different for me not being able to pick up on the visual stuff, but I was picking up on the audio, and the first thing you heard when the documentary started was Celtic fans singing, because obviously we had the thing where about to celebrate the opening of because of the day to the companies that sponsored Sunderland and Celtic. I'm forgetting the name now, but they obviously had a big game to celebrate that, and that was horrific. That was and it just it was, other teams' fans, like you say, liked it, but I think when it was your own team, you're always like a bit nervous, thinking, how are we going to be portrayed out, by the rest of the footballing world, and I think, I don't know if clubs, like you say, learned from that Sunderland documentary with regards to like being a bit more controlled, like you were saying earlier, because like you say, I haven't obviously heard the Newcastle one, but you just said that it's a bit more controlled, and so maybe other teams have learned not to, whether it's right or wrong, but not to show as much negativity as they should show.
There was a good bit on there about Callum Wilson and Isak. I think it's something that fans talk about. Who should be starting? Should it be Isak? Should it be Wilson? If he's going to play one up front, it was interesting to hear the two conflicting sides, and how they both feel about spending a little bit of time on the bench. The Anthony Gordon transfer, it seemed fairly genuine, that where Amanda's on the phone, you can see the panic in their face that they think they're going to lose this player that Dan Ashworth and Eddie Howe clearly want, and she decides to play hard ball, on the transfer, which was a little bit of an insight. You see a little bit of the relationship between Mehrdad and Amanda. It's they're married. It's the things weren't always rosy when they disagreed on things with regards to the club. So there was a few little flashes, and I think that's the thing. That was the disappointing thing for me. Those kind of areas could have been explored a bit more. They could have looked at it a little bit more, and I think that the final episode, which of course we had this hilarious situation where somebody leaked the final two episodes accidentally on purpose, I'm sure, on Amazon, which caused the news about Adidas and the new announcement to come out a little bit prematurely. But ultimately, the last episode was more about money. It was all about money, and I think again this is where we as Newcastle fans are being we're being educated, I guess, by this documentary as to what is coming around the corner for us, and that is price hikes. We've seen another new corporate area launched this week, which we've all had emails about as season ticket holders and members. A new area called Wings, which is it's essentially another corporate area. There's padded seats in the Leazes end, and people are being asked to pay a premium price for those seats. I was told the other day, something I didn't know, that Shearer's Bar, which has just been a bar where you can go into, the upper level of Shearer's Bar now has now been developed into a corporate area as well, albeit a cheaper one. But I think the cost was something along the lines of £360 for a seat. You get a little bit of a buffet, then you get led through the upstairs part into the stand, and the some more seats are being commandeered for corporate. So I think, to get the financial fair play, up and Newcastle to be in that position where they can compete with the bigger clubs, the fans are going to have to pay the price, and that's what always happens. And I think that's what we learned from episode 4. But it's interesting, lads.
And I want to see this Newcastle one, because it is different. And my background is commercial, is corporate, is strategy in football. That's what I was doing for FIFA for 2.5 years, and there's some big money being paid out. Some of these football clubs are getting up to $10 million to allow these cameras in and to produce these series. So it's not exactly. And I actually had a couple of conversations with James at Football Australia, because they did a documentary. I think it was with Disney, wasn't it, on the Matildas on the build up to the World Cup final, because we wanted we wanted at FIFA to include them in All Roads Lead Down Under, which was the equivalent of captains. It was a focus on women's national teams and their qualifying. There were 13 around the world we selected, and we wanted Australia to be one, but we couldn't do it because they'd agreed to deal with Disney. So there is money. There's hard cash to be earned by football clubs and organisations for these doccos. So I am keen, Steve, to have a look at the Newcastle one, not from a football perspective, but actually from a strategy and corporate perspective.
Give it a watch, and if anybody wants to put £10 million into the breakfast show as well, that would
absolutely, you can throw the cameras in here. I was actually thinking we should do one with Concert or Newcastle Blue Star or something like that, because Tottenham have done one, Arsenal have done one, Newcastle have done one, Sunderland have done one, etc., etc. Has anybody done one in the Northern League? Would that be of interest to people? Should we get on the phone to, I don't know which league Wickham playing now, but, Mask United, something like that. Should we see if they want a doco doing? We can give them £10, not 10 million quid.
Was Steve in the Newcastle one?
No, that was another bone of contention from some supporters that I spoke to. That they felt that the supporters who were on the documentary, I never like to use the terminology "real fans", because if you can't afford the game, but you can only sit at home and watch it on the TV, that doesn't make you less of a fan than somebody who can go and spend 30,000 plus on an executive box and take your friends. So for me, I don't like that term. But what people were just saying, that some of the fans interviews and stuff weren't as in depth. We didn't even get a decent interview with the supporters, and there was a lot of people disappointed about that. I think overall that's why I gave it a 5 out of 10. Some of the lads I've spoken to have given it less, and said, it's just not worth a watch. It's not something I'll be watching again. But I wasn't on it. It's not something I was approached to do. And I think it's the supporters can only say so much, I guess, because it depends on the questions you're asked. But it didn't have the euphoria apart from right at the start, the initial takeover. But it was very focused on making money, turning the financial fair play around. The Saudi ownership was heavily focused on the first one. It was a missed opportunity for me, and the rumour is that they're going to do a second series. Well, for me, it needs to go in a different direction, that's for certain.
I'll keep an eye open for that one. I will do. I wouldn't mind throwing this out to the masses across the North East. What is your favourite football doco that you've seen? And what do you think of the Newcastle and Sunderland ones? Just give us a WhatsApp, 0330 043 2002, that WhatsApp number to the studio, to the boys, on the subject of docos or anything. North East football at the moment. 0330 043 2002. We shall continue our chats after this. Youngest Samuel And 17 going under. There you go. We're keeping it northeast this morning. Oh no, we'll get on to Kylie Minogue again. I've been there once before. No Aussie music today. It just gets me into too much bother.
We need an Aussie music day of the week, I reckon. Every Tuesday or Wednesday, it's just Aussie music day, and I'll take over with some absolute bangers, I reckon.
Is it Matchbox 20? Are they Aussies?
Nah, Matchbox 20.
What are they?
US, I think.
Are they US?
Yeah,
all right,
the US. I think we there's a couple of bands that we've claimed as Australian. AC/DC as well. So there's a few in there that we just claim as Aussies, like Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe is actually born in New Zealand, but that's close enough. He's an Aussie, so there's a few in there.
Yeah.
Men at Work.
Men at Work. We did that one last week, didn't we? Down Under.
Yeah.
All that good eye, and we did all that.
Yeah.
It just leads me into bother. It just leads me into you guys taking the absolute mick out of me. So we're not going to go there.
We could have a Scottish music day as well.
Oh, hang on. Let me get rid of that one then. I was just going to make you feel at home there, Macca.
That preempts what we're going to talk about.
Go on, Macca. Hit me with it. What were you saying, mate?
Sorry, I'm saying we could have a Scottish music day as well.
We don't want to bring... Mind you, if we had a Hearts fan and a Hibs fan on, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Better still, Celtic and Rangers. We should do that, fellas. We should troll the UK for rivalry and bring it onto the show. A quick 5-minute debate between a Celtic fan and a Rangers fan. That would be nice.
I tell you what, that could be like a Russ Abbott sketch, that.
I've actually got a mate who's a Hearts fan, so we could throw him head-to-head with Macca. That would work.
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
My money's on
They've got
Macca.
a lot of Aussies playing there.
Sorry?
We get a lot of Hearts coverage here in Australia because they've got about 3 or 4 Aussies playing for Hearts at the moment in the Scottish League.
Have you noticed how Macca's kept that quiet over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Why did you choose Hibs, Macca?
One of my best friends supported Hibs when I was at the blind school in Edinburgh, and I used to attend their games, midweek matches, because obviously we used to go to school Monday to Friday, and come back at the weekends. And then in the last year, there was a guy that used to stay in the school that when his dad was in the army in Germany, so there was someone in the school like every weekend. So I got a season ticket and then met people and started going to the away games and haven't really looked back since, really.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I've got a soft spot for Melbourne victory. That's because I took a player there once when what was called a Scottish lad who was manager there for a long time, right? Ernie Merrick. Ernie Merrick was there.
Yeah.
And he's going to kill me for forgetting his name. Not that he's going to hear me. In Australia, Gary Cole, I think, was the operations director there at the time. He's an Aussie football coach, and a soft spot for Home United in Singapore, and that's because of the relationship I had when I was refereeing the guys when I was out in Singapore. So. Yeah, but I can't claim to support a second team, though. I just can't.
Does Hibs have a walkout song, Macca? The Hibs have a walkout song?
Sunshine Unleashed.
Oh!
Sunshine Unleashed. Okay,
I'm on my way from misery to happiness today. Love it.
What do
you think?
The Proclaimers are big Hibs
really?
fans.
There you go.
They'd walk 500 miles. Went to see the...
Andy Murray, big Hibs fan as well, Andy Murray.
Andy Murray is? All right, I'll stop supporting him then.
Yeah.
There you go. Wow.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what about music that we'll walk out to, lads? I mean, for Newcastle fans, it's been local heroes since back in the day of Alan Shearer. It was one of his favourite songs, and that's what Newcastle United walk out to. Gets the hairs on the back of your neck standing up and gets you ready for that game. But we have build-up music as well. I think we have we have a few. We seem to have kidnapped the Beatles, Hey Jude. The Ramones are always part of it as well. But Local Hero is the best. The walkout song for Newcastle United as they line up on the pitch and get ready to kick off the game. What's Middlesbrough's song, Dave? Is it still the same?
Still is. Go on, Ryan. Go for it, mate. Go for it.
Yeah, it's still the pig bag, isn't it? Still the pig bag. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm always oh, it gives me chills.
Yeah, it would be even better if we started getting 3 points when they ran out to it. It would be even better.
Look, at the moment, it stops after the song plays. But at the moment, right now, when this is playing, we're full of optimism. We're going to win the whole thing. After this song, it's a little bit different at the moment, but right now, during this song, I am full of optimism.
Brilliant. And then, of course, we have Sunderland's rendition. We'll bring Macca in at the end of it because you're sharing the same technical thing. 1 second.
They've got a striker and ready to go.
So that's Macca's. Macca, do you actually like the theme tune that they run out to, Republica?
I do, because the fans sort of sing that bit at the end, and then, but the bit for me I like is that finishes, and then they play Wise Men Say, and obviously that's just special by Elvis, and all of the fans sing that, and then as soon as that finishes, it sort of it got everybody going, so the fans just start singing again to other songs and that. It's brilliant, yeah.
If you can hear some noise in the background, fellas.
Foster, actually.
Sorry, Macca.
Sorry, we missed John Foster. Very, very good PA announcer guy who I believe you have at Middlesbrough now. So
he's at the Borough.
Oh yeah, we do. Big Johnny. Yep.
Yeah, big Jeff.
We've got Rob Byron. We've got Rob Byron at Newcastle, and he is really good. His music knowledge is vast. He's spent many years in the North East, running record shops, DJing, you name it. And Rob's really good, and he's become part of it. I mean, before that we had Alan Robson, of course, the Flashing Blade, who was very well known back in the in the 90s. Still kicking around now, but he was our stadium announcer. And then we had an infamous guy who nobody ever knew what he looked like, and he was called Barry in the Box. Barry in the Box.
Oh, really? There you go.
Yeah, nobody knew what he looked like. We were doing the fanzine at the time, and we used to do a cartoon of this guy with a bag over his head because nobody ever knew who he was. Barry in the Box. We made him a superhero. He loved it. He did. I did eventually meet him, but he did love that. But yeah, what do you think? What do you guys think of the overall match day experience? Because the song coming out of it's the small part, but ultimately we have to have half time. Some people decide to go down and have a pint. Some people go to the toilet and come back. But there's a lot of people do stay in their seats and stay and watch. And half-time entertainment over the years at Newcastle has been, it's everything from jazz bands where they would walk around and do their little performance that they'd done all week, or it would be a dog display from the local police station, or it would be hit the crossbar, and where you get people who've had a couple of pints on the pitch, invited onto the pitch to try and hit the crossbar from a distance. We also once had, if I remember, a few years back, big inflatable balls which you could get inside and have to race across the pitch against the opposition supporter, which was hilarious. But I mean, what's the best and worst half-time entertainment you've had at the Borough, right?
I beg us to leave it. It's been a while since I've been there. I guess some of the shows that we get. Dave, I'm going to have to ask you, I guess, because it's in recent times I'm not actually there. But I remember going to the Blackpool when we were down about 3-0 at half time, and I just went and got a pint. So I'm one of the boys that just left. But for us, like obviously here in Australia, the most famous song for football, entries is, obviously You'll Never Walk Alone, the Liverpool Anfield, walk in. I think that's become so incredibly famous that, we've got the AFL here, which is our local sport, and one of the teams here has actually copied that from Liverpool, funny enough, and do it as well. And I think, for us, and I think, worldwide, even if you're not a football fan, I think, the Never Walk Alone song is, it goes hand in hand with Liverpool now. So I think there are some songs there that just literally represent football. You've got some of the songs over the years that are just purely football songs now, which is incredible.
Yeah, I think at the Borough, what's famous at the Borough for halftime entertainment is the young kids penalty shootouts, which actually was stopped under Aitor Karanka's reign at the Riverside, and a lot of fans were saying bring it back, and it has been brought back. So these are under nines, so they're probably 8-year-olds. And I was watching it. It was actually the highlight of last Saturday at the Riverside, is watching these 8-year-olds trying to reach the goal line on a penalty shootout. Because they are no taller than the blade of grass they're standing on. So that's been tradition for the Riverside. Yeah. The most embarrassing thing that ever happened at the Riverside at halftime is Everton came to Borough 3 years ago-ish in the FA Cup, And I got to know Speedo Mick, who's a famous Everton fan who goes around the country attending games in his Speedos. And I think you call them budgie smugglers over in Australia. They challenged us to a Speedo challenge race, which sadly I got involved in, and I got to sort out, and it was all, sponsorship for local charities. So it meant at half time in this FA Cup game between Borough and Everton, we all had to walk out and it was a race around the pitch on the immediate area of the side of the pitch, all four corners. Let's just say I've looked more flattering in my years than running around the Riverside Stadium with nothing but a pair of Speedos on, and I'm as fast as the fastest tortoise you can think of. So the Everton lad was taking the mick out of me. He'd sprint ahead, and sadly I had the full length. I didn't even get behind the goal, behind the touchline, short distance to run. They gave me the full length of the touchline from corner flag to corner flag. So this guy would go ahead and turn round and laugh at me and slow down and let me catch up, and then run and sprint on ahead of me. And in the end we won because they dropped the baton. It was fantastic. The Borough won. Even though they lost the game 2-0 in the FA Cup, we won the half-time Speedo challenge. So that is the most embarrassing half-time thing I've seen, because I was embarrassing.
What happens at Sunderland, Macca?
Yeah, I was just going to come on to it. Like, we have the penalty shit-outs as well. We have the grand in your hand draw as well, which I've done before. That they on the pitch, that was really interesting. But I was going to come on to the role of the PA announcer, because it's really important to me that the PA announcer, because they tell you, like, not just like the substitutions that's being made and the team lineups and stuff. They tell you other scores. And if I'm struggling for a signal on my phone or my radio, that's quite important, because obviously I can't see the screens that the scores are put up on. And also to tell you, like, the information about the club and what's going on and stuff, if you haven't been on the website and all that. And I just wanted to ask Dave, I've got a feeling that you might have done this before, but I may be wrong.
Oh no! Here we
go. Would you do the PA announcing for Middlesbrough if you were offered the chance, or have you already done it, or what? And what do you think?
I've done PA announcing before, but not at the Borough, and I don't think I'd be asked. Of course, I used to be the Borough commentator. I used to go into Riverside, and on the beanbacks I'd do the Borough commentary for the club and stuff like that. Yeah, I would. Yeah. I mean, I would love to do PA announcing, because I think most PA announcers miss a trick. And they fail to get. Some of them try. And Steve, you've got a relatively new guy in there now, haven't you? I saw some Facebook, social media tweets about, I'm starting to do the PA announcing at St James's Park recently. But I think what they miss is whipping up a bit of a frenzy in the crowd. Is the entertainment value? It's a lot of them are too formal. And I think it really is engaging with the key has to be engaging with the crowd, keeping them entertained. I've travelled. I've been fortunate enough. I've travelled the world and seen an awful lot of world football. And I always remember going into Korea, and also Japan. And I saw what they do in the K League and the J League, and they do some fantastic stuff at half time. And it's simple, but it's engaging with the fans. It's really engaging. And it keeps fans entertained. It does whip them up a bit just before the teams come out, so they're ready to get behind the team from day one. And it's more than just a formal, here's your starting 11, and at number 1 is, we miss a trick in this country. We're far too traditional.
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, the job of a stadium announcer is obviously to get information across, and in Macca's position, it's really, really important.
It's vital, isn't it? Yeah,
that you get those things across. But I agree. A lot of it's about creating the atmosphere. But I think there's a fine line. I think I hate the happy clapper situation at like somewhere like Leicester, where it almost like it's a fake atmosphere. They're handed things to clap, and when they score a goal, they play this horrendous music. I think that I draw the line at that. I like the way that my club does it. I think Newcastle United do it well. Just let the crowd celebrate when there's a goal scored. We don't need music. We just need an announcement of who scored.
No, you can't now.
That's it.
You can't now. VAR spoils it.
Yeah, it does. Well, of course, it does. Of course it does.
What do you think? What do you think about when the PA announcer goes for the team, right, and they say the first name and they expect the crowd to shout out the last name. What do you think of that?
Oh, that's awful.
You guys.
Who does that?
Yeah.
I've seen it done, actually. No, I've seen it done. I can't remember where, but I've seen that done. The equivalent would be number 1, Mark. It's like, oh my God, fingers down the back of the throat time.
Yeah, that's awful.
I would be scared to see it become Americanized, I guess. I think we see a lot in, you only got to watch a couple of NBA games or NFL in America. You can see how big of, and I know obviously their sports have a lot more stoppages than football in terms of the gridiron and the basketball, and you see so much emphasis put on the halftime show in the Super Bowl. You see absolutely incredible moments from the NBA, but for a game that hasn't got many stoppages, and you're relying on one big halftime show, I don't think it needs to be made a spectacle, if you will. I'd like to see it in obviously the bigger cup games and maybe the finals and stuff like that. You can get a good band on beforehand or whatever it may be, but I think at halftime, especially, I would hate to see it Americanized. Let the patrons, that want to go and get a pint, and not miss out on anything or anything like that. And those that do want to stay in their seats, there's something on the field other than the boys just warming up that aren't getting game time, sort of thing. So I think it's there's a fine line between sort of providing match entertainment and it becoming an American sport sort of thing.
Isn't it wider than just a halftime show though? Because we're talking about 15 minutes here, and that's 15 minutes from whistle to whistle. So you're talking probably about 12 minutes before somebody gets started on a mic or playing a track, and then you've got to kill it because you're about to kick off again. Isn't it more about the whole day experience we should be talking here? Because I've got some blueprints here which I'm going to take to the 3 North East clubs about how you can engage from 10 o'clock, if we talk traditional 3 p.m. Saturday afternoon football. You can engage with your fans, with your marketplace from 10 in the morning. You can be encouraging people to get to stadiums early. You've got your fan zone. You can put on decent entertainment on the fan zone for home and away fans. All of this can be done. It then follows that fans are outside gathering at the fan zone, selling your F&B for the clubs, generating more revenue for the clubs. But while they're there, you can also be engaging with what's happening inside the stadia. So the two areas talk to each other. So outside, you're saying, let's get inside, let's get the team news. What's happening? What's the build-up like? Bang. Back outside where the pre-match entertainment's going on. And then when the majority of fans move in, that's when you move to your inner stadium entertainment, and then you do the switch after the game when they come back out again. It's more, isn't it more about giving a full match experience than just a half-time show?
Yeah, definitely is, and I think Newcastle are starting to make those kind of movements now. I think they're looking at it and going, right, okay, we need to do this. They've announced a fan zone, which launches in I think it's maybe late October, early November. That's
the Stacks one, isn't it, on the car park?
Yeah, that's right. So that'll be the first the first attempt of Newcastle to do something outside the ground. But yeah, I think you're right. It is an overall match day experience, but I think as well what clubs have to remember, it should be a price for all pockets as well. Not everybody can afford corporate hospitality. So if you're going to do that, make sure that there's something there for everybody. And I often said, especially when in the old days when there used to be 2-week break between, sometimes games, you weren't at home for 2 weeks and the stadium was empty. Surely a lot of that food and drink that they have left over is just going to go to waste. Well, why don't you put the goals on, or put some highlights on or something, or some entertainment on in the concourse and do half price for the food and the beer that's left. So the club never had the kind of idea to do that. You know what I mean? It's you've got to have a little bit of thought, haven't you? Right.
I'd hate to see a match day experience being touted as why we're putting some ticket prices up now as well. Do you know what I mean? We're already seeing a bit of a laugh when it comes to ticket pricing and overall pricing of getting to a match day. And if they start saying, all right, well, we've got a band, we've got this, we've got that, we've got cheap food and drink at the end of the day, so now the ticket prices are going up because it's a match day experience sort of thing. I think fans are entitled to having a good day out, each weekend, obviously going to watch their football team and stuff play, but I would hate to see prices being increased just purely on having to cover band or experience.
I don't think they have to, do they? Because if you can give an experience that gets fans to your stadium earlier and maybe keep them back later, then F&B sales will go up, People going into the club shop on site will go up. Purchases there will go up. Any other initiatives that you have outside of the game, will be adopted and probably accepted by the fans for longer. So there are other commercial benefits of doing this other than just using it to put ticket prices up. Surely, I don't know. Maybe I'm a million miles away.
As well. Is it a thing as well? Obviously, we spoke a lot about this last week in the TV rights and the radio rights. Is it because there are so many broadcasters now at a match day in terms of different radios, different TV stations? We've got about 4 different subscription networks. Is it a thing of licensing and maybe some, I don't know how it would work, but maybe, a certain radio station can't play that song or doesn't have the rights to it, or this TV station, it's not, they don't want to play that type of music because it has swearing or anything like that in it. So is it a thing of actual, like, trying to keep it sort of, more quieter because of the amount of people that are there actually rebroadcasting the game?
No, I don't think so. Everything has to be licensed. So if you're playing music, you've got to have a license to do that. Football clubs have that license in place for the royalty companies, for the artists. In terms of media rights, clubs do deals with one particular radio station. It tends to be local BBC at the moment across large swathes of the UK. But there are commercial stations that are still doing football commentaries and stuff like that. TV rights, they're done with one broadcaster domestically for that particular game. Now, it could be, in the Premier League's case, it could be one of 2 or 3 who carry that game, depending on the time of the kickoff. But it's one set of TV rights for that game on that day. So I don't think it's too complex, Rai. I really don't.
The thing is, there's not many local commercial stations that do it, or Dave, is there?
No, it's costly.
And that's where the problem lies, I think. It's all sort of taken over by the BBC.
Well, and the BBC has its challenges now. So, the nation, what do they call it? Nation and Regions unit of the BBC. The BBC are cutting back on local radio. They've already done one swathe, and the next one's kicking in the next couple of weeks, where they're stopping local broadcasting. And it's going regionalised from 2 p.m. on a Saturday and Sunday afternoon, unless you've got an existing sports deal, a football commentary deal, or 6 p.m. on a Monday to Friday evening. So, local BBC is going through its reorganisation and restructure at the moment. And as far as we're concerned, with the Cat, the Toon and the Red, we want to be talking to the 3 football clubs. We want to be saying, we are new local radio stations here, commercial radio stations. Let's talk turkey on what would it cost us to buy the rights to do football commentary. But, and I've got to say a big but here, it's bloody expensive. You've got to be sending your commentary team all over the country every second game. That's hotel, that's travel, that's pay for them to do it, as well as all that then gets thrown on top for the cost of buying the rights to do it. So we're hell-bent on doing that on the Cat, the Red and the Toon. I'd love to think Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough, in the next few years, we will be the stations that's carrying the football commentary. Will it happen? It's all down to the commercials.
No, it's definitely something that's interesting. And look, I think when it comes to like even the Champions League and Newcastle United, looking at that now, and in terms of how many people would be broadcasting in the San Sierra, I think obviously the Premier League is very regulated and stuff like that, but I still think there's some other leagues around the world. I know here in Australia, especially, we've got obviously a couple, like we've got one TV channel that sort of shows it, but there is multitude of, streams, and we talk about dodgy sticks and stuff like that. But I think that's still happening around many places, probably outside of the Premier League. And I think there was a big crackdown at one point on trying to, regulate those, and maybe, maybe that had a bit to do with it as well. But I think we definitely, definitely seeing sort of, the biggest and most wealthiest sort of broadcasters being the only ones about able to, obtain the rights, and they seem to keep getting it year after year.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was reading just yesterday, I meant to share this with you guys last night. The Premier League are lawyering up for another round of beating the Pirates. So they're about to do that. There's a new TV deal coming up in a year's time.
It's a massive thing. Yeah. It's a massive thing. The amount of dodgy streams you get these days, and you see it on every Twitter post from the clubs. If you have a look at and and there's every post, every Facebook comment, everything is, where can I find a stream? Where can I find a stream? And there's dodgy links. There's pirate links. There's, every club goes with it. And I think it's a massive, massive thing that the clubs are trying to combat because, broadcasters and clubs spend so much money trying to get the broadcast right. And then you've got, the dodgy streams just taken away from that.
Yeah.
I want to ask Dave as well, because obviously the radio is something that really interests me, which is why I'm on the North East Football Breakfast show. But when obviously we were just talking about Newcastle in the Champions League, I can think of at least 3 radio stations from Britain that will cover them games. What was it like when Middlesbrough were in Europe? Because again, I could think of 2 that would cover Borough every away game in Europe. Is it hard getting there, like the passes, the press passes and stuff like that, and the rights?
Well, it's harder. It's harder now than it used to be. I remember the days, because I'm an old sod. I remember the days when you used to pay 250 quid as a radio station. You could cover any game. A match by match fee that you would pay to your football club. That's changed. Those days have gone. So you've got to buy the rights to broadcast, and those rights tend to come from, for European competitions, those rights tend to come from UEFA rather than the football club. But football clubs do carve out deals, agreements within the competitions where they can do it locally. So it's not difficult, but you end up having to go into media rights negotiations and paying chunks of cash with your football club, or if it's at the highest level, then with the competition organisers. Whether you're TV or whether you're radio.
Would the club pay for, I don't know, for example, so when Ali and Bernie done it when Borough we were in Europe, would they pay for them to go on the flight with the players to go to the European games?
No, it doesn't.
Would the station have to do that?
Everyone's different. I remember an old Evening Gazette reporter called Cliff Mitchell who used to travel with Jack Charlton's team on the team bus. So he would travel with the team. That was back in the mid 70s with Big Jack. This day and age, we talked about documentaries and the sanitisation, the risk factor, and clubs being uncomfortable with opening the doors. It doesn't happen now. I mean, Steve, you might correct me if you're right, if I'm wrong in terms of Newcastle, but look, I put together the commentary coverage of Borough when Century bought the commentary rights, and I brought Alistair over from BBC Radio Cleveland, and it was myself and Ali who did the Borough commentary. I think I did it for a couple of years before I then moved on to my TV job with Sky. And that's straightforward. You do a deal with the club, you buy the rights, you put your show together. But no, we were jumping in cars and driving all over the country to follow the Borough and do the commentary. We weren't getting access to team buses or anything like that. Although, strangely enough, it has been known to bring the odd footballer home. We have been known to bring the odd footballer home who's had to go to hospital or has had to stay back to do a dope test and couldn't pee into the bottle in time and stuff like that. So, but they're the rare occasions.
So all of that came from asking what music you like at your football ground. But
it's gone down a bit of a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
it has an in-depth debate.
But it is an interesting fact. Yeah,
and I tell you what, guys, we're well late for the news. Should we do the news and then come back?
Sounds good
stuff, mate.
Yeah, okay. News time. We'll be back after this.
From Wickham to Whitley Bay, Stonygate to Shields, Doggy to Darlow Backlane. Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
Oh wow, we were very late with the news, and I'm doing far too much talking, and it's all your fault, Steve Race, Rye in Richter's TV fame, and Macca. So I'm just going to shut up and stay quiet now while Steve takes over. Go on, Steve, Bonnie lad, you take it.
It's a big welcome to a good friend of mine, Davy Nellis, who is an actor, a thespian, and who is currently cycling 350 miles from London to Newcastle to raise funds for the West End Food Bank, which is a cause which is close to his heart and to mine. And he is currently in the role as well of I, Daniel Blake, which makes this all the more important. Good morning, Davy. How are you?
Good morning, Steve. Very well, sir. Very well.
Great to have you on, mate, as always. And just tell us a little bit about this bike ride that you're on, and where are you now?
Well, I'm currently in Gainsborough in Lincolnshire. Yeah, it's actually, I realised, I told people it's 350 miles, it's 368 miles, so... so
you've shortchanged yourself.
Yeah, underestimated. And so it came about, we were researching Daniel Blake and the wonderful people at the Newcastle Food Bank in the West End in Benwell helped us so much with the research. They came down, they shared their stories, incredibly brave of them, and you just come out feeling a bit humbled and thinking, what can I do? And then I had this crazy idea. I told too many people. I said, I'm going to cycle from my house in East London to the West End Food Bank. I'll do it over 6 days. And then I told enough people I had to do it. So it was, so I'm on day, what am I doing today? I'm starting day 4 in about an hour. And that today is going from a friend's house in Gainsborough to Hull, to another friend's house.
Wow. I mean, and I guess you've had to plot the route, etc. Is it easy to follow? Are you out with anybody, or are you just doing this on your own, Davey?
No, it's completely solo. That was one of the things. It was just about, I sort of came up with this theme about making connections, because that's often people who are in food poverty, they lose connections either because economically they just can't afford to go out, or there's a sort of an unwarranted sense of shame. So like last night I'm at someone's house I worked with 35 years ago. We hadn't seen each other till last night, so it's just making new connections, and doing it on my own, and just trying to raise awareness as I go along, talk to as many people as I can. I've got me vest with the whole GoFundMe, which is end the cycle of poverty. Do you like the pun that I made there? Davey Nellis, end the cycle of poverty.
You should be on stage. Should be on stage with it.
Well, he is. He's at the Durham Gala Theatre this month, 26th to the 30th. And Daniel Blake, if you haven't seen it already, go and see it. It's absolutely superb. It tells the message. It's more poignant now probably than it was when the film came out, unfortunately, because things just are going from bad to worse. I just want to ask you about the weather, Davey. I mean, you've had perfect biking weather all summer. And then now the week that you choose to go, you're going to be tackling 25-30 degrees, I would imagine, today.
Yesterday it was just so hot. I was cycling beautiful down the river from sort of Boston in Lincolnshire down to Gainsborough, but there was no shade, and I'd run out of water about 7 miles to Lincoln. Run out of water. I was really struggling, and as you say, just. People say, "Oh, you've got the weather for it," and you're like, "I wouldn't have minded a little bit cooler."
Can I throw one in, Davey? I mean, what happens in that situation? Do you allow yourself just to make a short pit stop in a local hostelry and top up on whatever they serve?
I've rediscovered a pint of bitter shandy. That was like, rather than having a pint, I thought, "Oh, that's nice." So I've got the sugar. And I've got the hops, so it's a meal in itself.
Great stuff. Well, listen, Davey, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. You're going to need to get your energy sorted. If people want to support you, you have got a GoFundMe page, which I'll stick up on our socials and stick up on my social as well. But if anybody wants to go to GoFundMe, and if you just search for "End the Cycle of Poverty," I think that will probably take you to it. But I'll stick the links out as well. Just a quick one on Newcastle, Davey. Not the best start for us, but we have got the Champions League to look forward to, Davey.
Yeah. It's a funny one. I think it is. It feels a bit imbalanced with Guimaraes and Tonali and Joe Linton in there, but there's a few idiots I've seen on websites just say, has Eddie taken us as far as he can? I'm like, what? Keep taking the meds. I'm believing in Eddie. He'll sort it out. I want Longstaff back in there. I think when you take him out, we lose a lot. So I'd give. I think at the minute I might give Bruno a rest. Put Sean in there and see what happens.
I didn't know he was I didn't know he was reading our social media platforms, Rye.
Davey Nellis, an absolute pleasure, mate. And listen, very best of luck with your 368-mile journey from London to Newcastle.
I've got an idea, Steve, and I don't know whether Davey would be up to this. When do you finish, Davey?
we finish on. I've got to finish at 1 o'clock in Benwell on Friday at the food bank. There's some press coming down and stuff, so we've got to get there for 1 o'clock.
Well, how about we put a call through every morning before you start, just so you can give us an update on how you're getting on, and we can start plugging even more. Would you be up for that or not?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be brilliant.
Steve, can you sort that?
I will do, mate. Not a problem. Good stuff. So we will get an update tomorrow morning, Davey. Look forward to it. Have a good one today, mate.
Thanks, lads. Appreciate it.
Have a good ride,
Good luck, mate.
Take care.
All the best. Brilliant stuff. Oh, fantastic stuff. It's... I come up with some daft, crazy ideas from time to time, fellas, and I drop myself right in the cart most of the time with them. But just listening to him there, I'm thinking, ooh, could I ride a bike through all 92 football clubs? Could I? Could be. I really could be digging a hole for myself here.
It's one of those things that sounds like a good idea
at the time.
And I think we've just heard from Davey there as well that that's exactly what happened to him. He put himself forward, and then ultimately he's had to put his money where his mouth is. But I think we've all did it. I did the Great North Run last year, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd never done it before, and ultimately, when you do put yourself into those kind of positions, you've got to carry it forward. But good luck to Davey. It'll be great to hear how today goes. Hope it's not too hot for him.
So I'm going to set you all some homework, including Macca. The homework is come up with an idea of what we can do as a breakfast show to try and raise some cash for a decent cause in the North East. And it doesn't involve, it can't involve myself, lipstick, and any form of women's dressery. Okay. I did that.
Or me in the Sunderland top.
Yeah. Well, I've done that, mate. I've done that. I once had to wear one, but we've been there. We've done that story. I once actually, when I used to present a radio show, locally, which was the late night phone in, where people would phone up and go, "Yeah, there's dog crap on me drive. Like, what do I do?" Once we had a guy phone up and say, "There's this new thing called bungee jumping. We run a bungee club, and I think they're out of Richmond in North Yorkshire, and we're doing this event. If anybody wants to come along," I went, that's easy. Throwing yourself off a platform 170 feet in the air with elastic band. Yeah, that's easy. And of course, it led to, okay, then, big mouth, come and do it. And sadly, because it was on the radio and people have warped sense of humour across the North East, it turned into, if you dress up as Santa Claus and do this bungee jump, I will sponsor you some money now. I'll give you 50 quid towards right, I'll do that. And then it progressed, and it ended up including rouge on my face and lipstick and all kinds of bizarre things. So it gives you an idea what the North East radio audience is like.
Yeah, it definitely does.
So I was a Camp Father Christmas throwing myself 170 feet to the ground. But there you go. Oh, what you do for good causes. Right, where we going, fellas? What's next?
International football is what we wanted to talk about today.
International football.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not interested in international football. I've got to be perfectly honest, and I just wanted to know what the lads and what the listeners thought about international football, because I just swerve it. This 2-week break is an absolute nightmare for me as a football fan, and unless it's a huge World Cup game or a World Cup tournament or a European tournament, then international football just doesn't do it for me, and it's not something I would go out of the way to watch. It's something I would probably go out of the way to avoid. So, is international football as important? And of course, Ryan as well. You've put something on there. It's not from a source I've heard. I've got to be perfectly honest, but talk or chatter today about potentially a change at the top of England.
Yeah, so it looks like there are rumours starting to circulate. Again, social media, take it with a grain of salt, but that's Gareth Southgate is rumoured to set to leave the England job after the Euros, and that the FA might try and approach Pep Guardiola. So whether that's got any substance to it or not, we did see obviously Gareth has been in the hot seat for a long time now, and I think it's probably closer than it is further away that Gareth is probably going to move on from the England job, especially if there's a poor performance come the Euros. I think there will definitely, FA would be looking for someone. Whether that goes, they are able to lure Pep. I don't know. The timing might be right after Pep doing everything he can at Man City. So it's interesting though. For me, come international time, I feel for the Aussie players the most. Obviously, the most the furthest to go in terms of travel. Normally, obviously having to fly in a 2-week break, imagine flying to Australia, playing a couple of games of football, and then flying all the way back, ready to go for a championship tie. It's just, it is asking a lot, but they obviously, then you get they're paid well enough, and that's what they do. And, I'm sure they love representing their country, but it is a long way to go. The 3 Aussie boys from Middlesbrough, Tom Glover, Riley McGree, and Sammy Silvera are off to Dallas in the US.
Yeah, you're cheating this time. You're cheating. You're going to the US.
Yeah, they're only going to the US to play Mexico there, so they haven't, travel all the way. We did see news as well for the England squad as well, which I'd love to hear, thoughts about as well, with Jack Grealish and Alexander Arnold having to withdraw. Obviously, they've got upcoming games in this break against Ukraine and Scotland, but they're definitely both out now with injury. So there's some injuries there. So it's interesting to see.
It's like one of those fairground machines, isn't it, where you press a button and up it squeaks. You just mentioned the word. Hang on, we'll just test it. The word is Scotland.
Hey,
there it is.
It worked.
Hey. Good little button there.
Yeah.
I think, for me,
what's happening with Scotland, Macca?
Sorry. Go on, carry on, Ray.
No, you're right. What is happening with Scotland? Let us know. What is the latest in the Scotland?
We're playing Cyprus away on Friday in the qualifier, and then obviously we've got the game with England at Hampden on Tuesday to celebrate 150 years ago since they played each other when at a park in Glasgow before Hampden was around. So yeah, it's good at the moment. Stevie Clark does a really good job for Scotland, and yeah, we've got a good chance to get into the Euro 2024, I think it is.
Yeah.
Is that right? So yeah, I like international break. I like listening to all the games, but yeah, obviously England unfortunately just doesn't interest me at all.
Stevie Clark's a good lad. I like Stevie Clark. Got a lot of time for him. He was ex-Newcastle lad as well, wasn't he?
He was.
Steve.
He was there. He's got John Carver there as his number 2 as well. JC.
Yeah. JC's a great lad. Yeah, absolutely. Two good lads. I've got a granddad story. About Scotland. If you want it, lads. Yeah. If you want it. I mean, you can tell me to shut up, go home, and take my early retirement if you want. Because that's how I feel on this show. It's like, I've got to do the tail, fellas. I've got to do the tail, fellas. But I was at Hampden. Actually, I was at Wembley as a kid when Scotland beat us 1-0 and nicked our pitch and snapped the goalpost. So can we have them back, please, Scottish football fans? I bet there's a few Wembley lawns now north of the border. But no, it wasn't that. I was there for. Do you remember the European Championships playoffs? England-Scotland, 2 legs. Do you remember that when we played each other? And I was doing touchline reporting for Talk Sport, who were covering it, who had the rights to cover it. And I'm at Hampden, and I'm standing in the mouth of the tunnel just before, as the players go out and they're warming up. And Kevin Keegan was the England manager. And Kev comes and stands at the end of the tunnel with his arms folded. And he's literally he's one metre away from me. We're both standing there. And obviously I'd known Kev had recently moved into a house at Wynyard on the outskirts of Teesside. So we were standing there not saying anything. I thought, icebreaker time. So I turned around and I went, I live near you. And he looked at me and he went, where's that? I went, Bishopton. It's a village just outside of Sedgefield. Near you at Wynyard. He went, oh yeah. He said, where'd you get your curries from? And I looked at him and I went, well, I get them locally. And he went, there's a great curry shop in Sedgefield on the high street. He said, do you know if you pay an extra £1, they'll deliver to your house? And I'm looking and thinking, England against Scotland, it is a European Championship decider, qualification decider, and Kevin Keegan's telling me about if I pay an extra £1, I can get the curries delivered to my house. How bizarre a conversation was that just before kick-off in a major international game? There you go.
Yeah, exactly. He might even tell that story on Thursday at South Shields Football Club.
Actually, I'll remind him of it. I'll say, Kev, do you remember Hampden Park, the discussion about curry? There you go.
But does England Scotland still have the same kind of feel about it as well? I mean, you think of the golden days of Gaza, and that wonderful goal and the dentist chair celebration. You think going even further back, a bit of tribalism when the Scottish fans invaded Wembley's pitch and brought the crossbar down. But I mean, does it have the same kind of feel now as it did back then? Are people that interested in an England-Scotland game which is celebrating some anniversary that none of us even knew about? I mean, is it really something that we all going to tune into next week? Or, again, for me, it just doesn't have the same kind of feel as a big game at St James's Park, I'm afraid.
I'll definitely be listening. I was still thinking about whether I want to go to the match or not. It's definitely interesting. I think because Scotland are on the rise now as well. With the good work that we've just mentioned with Steve Clarke, I think it does, and I think we can challenge England a bit, and maybe I think it'll be really good, and obviously there'll be a massive atmosphere at Hampden as well. And I was down at Wembley when Scotland played England a few years ago, and England won really convincingly. But the thing is, the atmosphere was still brilliant, and we just like to party, Scotland fans, so wherever we go, we just go for the party, really.
Yeah, but you've got huge chips on your shoulders over the English, haven't you?
I think some people have. Again, though, that's really driven by the press, really. I think, it's not necessarily England, it's the press. It's like the build-up to World Cups and stuff. No, it is. No, but the build-up to World Cups, like England seem to think, or the press seem to think that it's a travesty and a failure if England don't win the Euros or win the World Cup. They seem to think that they've got like a God-given right to win anything.
Now the truth's coming out, Macca. Now the truth's coming out of your lips. A God-given right. We don't like the English. No, it's just when Scotland are performing, it's like any of the home nations, and Australia. I've got a soft spot for Australia. Got two, family reasons. Yeah, right. And New Zealand, family reasons. I want to keep the peace in the Roberts household. But when Scotland or Wales, even Northern Ireland, got some good friends at the Northern Irish, the Irish FA it's called, and the Republic, because of the links with Bernie Slaven and Jack Charlton. Yeah, I always want them to do well. Apart from if they played England in a World Cup qualifier, obviously I want England to win. But outside of that, I want Scotland to qualify. But in reverse, I don't think I've ever found a Scotsman who'd say, they want England to qualify. I don't think I've found one.
It's the press, though, Dave. Like, they give the big England up so much, and like Scotland don't get enough credit when they do well, and even the other home nations, it's all about England and what they're going to do, and I just don't get it. I think it's probably because of the money that's come into football as well, and I don't think that helps. But at the same time, there's obviously a lot of players, foreign influx of players as well. But they do, though. England just seem to think that the press seem to push it out that they're going to do really well in championships, and they're one of the favourites. And sometimes before the championships, England are playing really like non-attractive football, but they still seem to be supposedly up there to do this and do that. And I think that's why when they do fail, people do laugh and stuff, only because of the press. It's not necessarily the English people themselves. It's the media. It is the media.
Steve, have you come across any Scots fans who like England?
No, definitely not. It's not something again, international football is not something that it's not a playground I play in, really, but it's one of those situations where I think there is still tribalism. There is people who are fully into it. And I know Newcastle fans who go England home and away. They spend their life on the road with Newcastle and with England, and they invest a lot of money in it. They're few and far between, but there's a lot. There's a hardcore of fans who do go and follow them. But no, there is rivalry there. People can't support both. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we were talking the other week about Elliot Anderson as a player selecting, Scotland That's his choice. I think it was a wise move. He's who's to say what's going to happen with his career? He may well go on from strength to strength and could have been selected by England, but he's made a bold choice at a young age, and he'll get game time with Scotland. But I think the one thing, just observing it, and just because I don't follow it doesn't mean I don't keep an eye on what's going on. And it's become more apparent that some of the other home nations have certainly upped their game. Scotland being one, Wales being another. Qualifications for big tournaments used to be unheard of for these teams. You have to probably go back to like the late 70s and early 80s for them to do that. So it's good to see, because I guess it creates a bit more of a competitive nature within the home nations, and maybe just some kind of restructuring, maybe like a Michael Carrick reboot of the home nations. Maybe have the home nations tournament game where they all have to play each other. Maybe that might reignite the passion a bit more.
Yeah, I've got a message coming in from Dunneil, who's a Newcastle fan, and he says, "Hi guys, great show, great discussion. England-Scotland games, I feel, do not capture the public imagination as they used to in the past." So that's from Dunneil, who's a Newcastle fan. Yeah. I'd love to hear from a Scotland, Scottish football fan, a Scotland fan. Love to get your views on how you view the English. Is it it's them over the border down south, or is it actually I don't mind as long as Scotland win? Like to see England do well. Give us a WhatsApp 033 043 2002. Right, the Aussies. Who are your big rivals? Is it the Poms in cricket? Is it the All Blacks in rugby? Where is that tribalism, or doesn't it exist in Australia?
I mean, for football, it doesn't really exist at the moment. Obviously, we're so small in terms of the footballing world landscape. The Socceroos, obviously, are very well followed here in Australia and stuff like that. But it's very rare. And I think, obviously, for the travel, a lot of our Australian Socceroos represent, clubs in Europe. So it's very rare to see in a 2-week break the Socceroos come to Australia, which doesn't allow Australia to get to the games and connect with the Socceroos as much. I would argue it's still, your classic sort of rivalries. Australia's always got rivalries with England, and we see that, stem from, other sports though. And obviously with New Zealand as well, obviously, being across the water there. So I think Australia have got a long way to go in terms of creating rivalries in a footballing sense. But obviously, again, you see the Ashes, you saw the rivalry there, you saw the build up with, Australia v England. We always love that, and even that was one of the most watched sporting events, and that the time frame for that, obviously, that I'm used to watching the Middlesbrough games, that was on till about 5 a.m. in the morning, but you still had people getting up and watching the Ashes and reporting on it. But I wanted to ask the lads on it as well with the Spain. We've got again, it seems to be the everlasting controversy in Luis Rubiales. We had Spain's men come out and say and call the behaviour of the Federation president unacceptable.
It's the story that doesn't fail to deliver, is it? It goes on and on and on.
Is he still there?
The men's side have come out and said, you know what? Now we're together. Let's us, put our 10 cents on it. So it's the men's side came out and they said as a group collective, I guess their statement was that we regret and solidarity, and we stand with solidarity with the players whose success has been tarnished. We want to reject what we consider unacceptable behaviour of the part of Mr. Rubiales, who has not lived up to the institution he represents. And that was Alvaro Morata, obviously a well-known name in the ex-football that he used to play for Chelsea, but he made that statement on behalf of the Spain squad. And then finishing off with, we firmly and unequivocally stand on the side of the values that this sport represents. Wanted to know what lads thought of that, and obviously, the interest that international football brings in terms of politics and news stories when there is drama like that. Is it as big as news as you see the issues at club level, or is it even bigger when politics and issues like this arise?
I genuinely can't believe that this guy is still in a job. I don't know what he thinks the end game is going to be. I don't know whether he thinks that he can completely, whether he thinks he's going to stay in this job. I just don't see how this ends, other than him having the humiliation of eventually having to step down. I just can't believe it. I really, really can't. That we're still, a week and a half on from starting the breakfast show, when it should have all been, done and dusted the following, after our first day launch, that he's still there. Is his mum still on hunger strike?
She's in hospital. She's taken to hospital.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
It's not a story I've been able to follow, but I mean, credit to everybody who's come out and spoken out against him. It is an absolute embarrassment for Spanish football at a time when they should be celebrating the success of the women's team. Winning the World Cup. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is.
It's like tarnished it, hasn't it?
It has.
And like you say, they should be celebrating their success. And instead, we're still talking about this guy. It's like it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. He should have went as soon as the incident happened and it came, and obviously everyone had an opinion on it. He should have done the right and honourable and decent thing and just walked.
Yeah, it's a fantastic example of how not to handle crisis management. You've got the president who is under so much pressure, digging his heels in. Yeah. I'm not going anywhere. I mean, what is the FA doing? What is the FA doing itself? Because they've not covered themselves in glory. You've got the women who are coming out refusing to play. The men are now supporting them. The world is turning against them in opinion. The FA started off by threatening to sanction the girl involved, the player involved. Then they had to do a U-turn when they realised what the voice of the public was saying. And now we've got this situation where he's still in position. How long ago? Is it 2 weeks now?
Yeah, it's got to be 2 weeks. Easily.
2, if not longer. Yeah. It's terrible. It's terrible for the game, and it's terrible for the women's sport. And as we said, in what should have been celebrated as one of the most amazing Women's World Cup we've had, in terms of highlighting the success of women's football and how well it did for numbers. Obviously, being here and down in Australia as well, and growing football in our local country and stuff like that. It's tarnished it, and it's the story that everyone talks about from this World Cup, not the story that how well the England women did or how well the Spain women did to go on and win it. It's terrible that a story of a one man can tarnish the thousands of hundreds of women that participated in an amazing event. It's terrible.
And I think it has to be, for sake of balance, it has to be flagged. The women haven't done themselves any favours either. I don't know if you've seen the video of them on the team coach, when they were leaving the World Cup final stadium, where they were all singing and dancing and singing kisses, kisses, kisses in reaction to what had happened. So, in the end, the whole world's got sympathy for them, absolutely, because the behaviour was abhorrent. What he did was completely wrong. But then the women put somebody leaks that video of them singing and dancing and laughing it off on the coach and singing kisses, kisses. I don't know. It's a horrible story, and like I say,
it is.
The Spanish FA have not covered themselves in glory in the way they've handled it. It really needed somebody with a big pair of cojones to get hold of this and just say, we're now going to see it out. And did you see my use of the Spanish language there? Hey.
Very good, very good.
I liked it. I liked it. I loved it.
Good man. I tell you what, we need to take a quick break. We'll be back on the North East Footy Breakfast with more chat, more discussion with. We were talking, about thespians earlier. I do think this is the sequel to, what is it, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. It's the Mackem and Two Smoggies. That'll be back next.
Wish you the best.
Love him, absolutely do. Lewis Capaldi, and wish you the best. And seeing his documentary, we were talking earlier, fellas, about football fly on the walls and doccos. And his is just
his is brilliant.
I mean, in a weird way, it's inspiring as well, because you really see the true Lewis Capaldi, his family, how he's battling with Tourette's, what impact it's had on his mental health, etc. I've got every respect for the lad. I really do have. See,
and he comes out with a voice like that. It's incredible.
incredible.
It is absolutely incredible. And I don't know whether you noticed, but a couple of years ago, Radio 1 guys brought the big weekend to Middlesbrough, and Capaldi was one of the, not the unsigned artists, but he was one of, they've got a phrase for it, I can't remember what it is, BBC speak, one of the up-and-coming artists. And before he performed at the event, he went to the local Greg's Bakery and got kitted out in Greg's uniform and started selling pasties and sausage rolls. And the shop round the corner from where the event was absolutely mobbed by teenagers. And he was going, "Hello, my name..." I can't do the Scots accent. I'll not even try. But he was going, "Hello, my name's Lewis. I work at Greg's. What can I get you today?" He was absolutely, the guy was absolutely incredible. He was brilliant. But anyway, Macca, you obviously won, because we failed to do it miserably. You wanted to gloat this morning, didn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. You can't, well, how can we not mention on this fantastic...
I know where he's going.
Sunderland players in the Championship Team of the Week, managed by Tony Mowbray. Absolutely
incredible.
Awesome. Rye's got the link.
Here's the Team of the Week, if anyone wants to listen to it. And there's going to be one mention at the end of this that I need to blame Middlesbrough for making him the goalkeeper of the week. But here's the team, for anyone who hasn't seen it. The Championship Team of the Week, obviously managed by Tony Mowbray. Up front, Clark Keane from Preston, Lapardo from Ipswich. In the midfield, Dak Rudoni and Ekwa from Sunderland. There's your two Sunderland boys in the midfield. And then a backline absolutely dominated by Sunderland in Sirkin, Ballard, Story from Preston, and Hume, obviously also Sunderland. And the goalkeeper of the week, if it had to be rubbed into the salt.
No, it doesn't begin with a B, does it? It doesn't begin with a B, does it?
It begins with a B and ends with a latte and it rhymes with Begovic. So Begovic getting the goalkeeper of the week as Latte Lath, making him the absolute superstar that he was. But that's the Championship Team of the Week, and I never want to see it again. Thank you.
Tremendous. It shows you testament, isn't it, to someone's performance on Saturday, getting all them players.
Tell you what, it's a testament to your defence, isn't it? I mean, obviously we saw 5 goals go in, but it's a testament to see Sirkin, Ballard, and Hume, in a 4-man backline. Obviously, and Tony Mowbray, after what was a dominant talk of media last week, that will he get the striker and Ross Stewart going and that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was interesting to it was just an incredible result, one that I think, and you might be able to correct me, Macca, but one of the results that I've ever seen for Sunderland in terms of the most unexpected. I can't remember a result for Sunderland being so unexpected other than that one, and in such dominant form as well, that I can't remember one in Championship history. Definitely
so, and obviously Southampton were unbeaten coming into this as well, so, and if I was a Southampton fan, I would be a bit worried, because their next 2 games, I think, are Leicester and Ipswich. So where's their points going to come from? And especially against Leicester, who are probably going to be there or thereabouts at the end of the season. So yeah. But Mo Salah, guys, the penalty a bit came in for Mo Salah.
Yep.
I'm just conscious that we've got silence from Tyneside here. Is that because we're talking Sunderland?
No, I'm just giving the lads a chance to express their joy at the fact that they managed to get some players in a Championship team.
I noticed the emphasis on the word championship.
But yeah, Mac is right, Mo Salah.
Steve. Yeah.
What's happening with Mo Salah, Ray? What's happening with him?
Well, it's actually come in. Apparently, we are reporting and hearing reports this morning that the bid has confirmed, as we spoke about it yesterday, and Steve and I agreed, I think early last week, that the Salah would probably end up going. And here's the the next bid that Liverpool are going to have to mull over. But a £200 million pound bid has come in from Saudi Arabia for Mo Salah. So obviously they failed in a dramatic deadline day bid to push for Salah, but Saudi Arabia having another week in their transfer window to make another improved bid, and they've apparently come out and done that this morning with a £200 million bid, and I don't think that's one Liverpool can turn down, lads.
No.
I generally can't see them knocking that back. And I mean, I still think he really wants to go. I just, we talked about this last week, but I still think he wants to go. And why wouldn't you? 1.5 million a week. It's just crazy money. But it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Liverpool seem quite, quite set in their ways that he's not going to go. But I don't think this will go away either, because I think if they don't get him now, they'll get him in January. I think if they do miss out, because I think the Saudi league closes this Thursday at 10 o'clock at night. I think if they don't get him now, then they'll get him again in January. They'll be back in January, and it's too much money to miss out on.
But will the price go down in January, Steve? Could Liverpool face them coming back saying, right, sorry, he's only got 6 months of his deal left, then we get him for now, so we'll give you 100 million?
Yeah, it could do. That's the risk in it. That's the gamble. But then, how much do you lose? Liverpool will be weighing it up and going, well, Mo Salah, keep him till January. He's gonna score goals. He's gonna get us into the position that we need to be for Champions League qualification. Maybe we're gonna make the money the other way. It's fine margins, but like I said before, the owners of Liverpool are not stupid, and they are money motivated. And if they can get 200 million plus for a player that's going to be going for nothing at the end of next season, they've got to take the money.
Yeah, you have to. What it could do for Liverpool and in the future, and even leading into January. Obviously, it's a massive loss between now and January, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's only a couple of months. They've still got a very good squad there that could, they're going to have to cover at some point the loss of Mo Salah. And if you can cash in 200 mil, what it could do for you come January, there's the likes of the players you could get, with that amount of money and what you could do with the club. But yeah, it's incredible money, and 200 mil for a 31-year-old, like I said yesterday, is, you have to take that. And it's, for someone that's, only got 12 months or so to run on the contract as well, I can't see Salah getting a new contract at Liverpool at the end of the 12 months anyway. So it's incredible money, and it's, it's something that I think you'd be silly not to take now. And
it's the not so small matter of releasing 360 grand a week off your wage bill. So from a financial fair play perspective, it's going to help.
Of course it is.
Well, there's a couple of free agents out there as well that Liverpool would dip into. I mean, I think we saw rumours this morning that West Ham are looking to get Jesse Lingard. Jesse Lingard, obviously at Nottingham Forest last season, but was left unattached at the end of season. It looks like he's going to go to West Ham now on a short-term deal. And we've got a couple of other, free agents floating around out there that are still, without a club. And I think, obviously, if Liverpool do lose Salah, then maybe we see them dip into a free agency sort of thing just to cover till January as well.
Can I go on, Steve. Go for it, Steve.
I was just thinking of free agents and who was available, but they may go down the Pep Guardiola school of not playing with a forward. I mean, I made this point the other day. They've signed some really, really good forwards. I mean, a couple of midfielders. Sorry, Szoboszlai in particular really, really has impressed me. Somebody who Newcastle were of course chasing throughout the summer, but Liverpool got the man, and of course McAllister as well. I mean, that midfield is superb. It really is. It's probably one of the strongest midfields in the Premier League, and they're firing on all cylinders already. And they've got Darwin Núñez. They're not short of firepower. They've got Diaz. They've got some really good players, Liverpool. So losing Salah might not be as bad as Liverpool fans think it would be, and just it gives you that money to spend in January as well.
Interesting one. Can I just use this moment just to give a plug to Peter Reid and Kevin Keegan back in the region doing an event for South Shields Football Club this Thursday night. So Reid and Keegan together, apparently they bounce off each other very, very well. So tickets still available. If you'd like to see them Thursday night at South Shields Football Club, then tickets are available from the football club itself, from South Shields. All usual ways of contacting them. So just wanted to give that a plug, because it's good to see KK and Reedy back in the North East.
And the thing is, Dave, if that doesn't inspire you to go along, you're going to be there, so that is all you need, isn't it?
That's why the tickets are selling quickly now, because Dave's revealed that he's going.
Stop it, behave yourselves, but give your head a shake, man.
Well, we do have some football tonight as well, lads. Obviously around England, we've got the EFL Trophy tonight. Obviously, the lower leagues performing, but we do see Newcastle United taking on Wrexham. Obviously, Newcastle United under 21s away to Wrexham tonight in the EFL Trophy. Do we see any superstars lining up for them, Steve?
No, I doubt it, mate. You know, I mean, superstars. There'll be players there who, some of these youngsters who are on the periphery of, you know, potentially getting into the first team squad. But no, you know, this will be a very young side that is put out tonight. And yeah, look, I mean, it's a little bit of bone of contention with me. You know, the under 21s. You know, they played Manchester City at home the other day. They lost 4-0. You know, they're not getting off to the greatest of starts, and I think there needs to be improvement at that level. I think the under 18s, you know, wasn't as much of a humiliation. They lost at Fulham 3-2, the under 18s the other night. But yeah, I mean, you're going to see the likes of Lewis Miley, who's been, you know, pushed for potential first team inclusion at some point. Murphy's injured, unfortunately. He went off, so he won't feature. But yeah, there'll be one or two faces in there who Newcastle fans, if they go along, will be able to keep an eye on. But I think those kind of players are a little bit way off the first team at the moment. And I want to point out as well the goal. You will have seen me retweet it, I'm sure, those of you on Twitter. Yankuba Minte is on loan at Feyenoord. Caused some raised eyebrows with the way that he finished. It was very like a Peter Beardsley goal I saw against Manchester City in 1984. But Peter played on a much clartier pitch. It was thick of mud. Love it. It was thick of mud, and he just basically jinxed round one, jinxed round another. He beat 7 players and then even beat the goalkeeper and tucked it in the corner. Minty only beat a couple of players, but it was a very similar type of goal. And I think he's something special. I think he was our first signing in the summer. We've loaned him to Feyenoord. He's actually starting and playing for Feyenoord. Scored his first goal. I think he'll be special, and I think when he comes back, he'll have learned a lot, and he could be the player that saves Newcastle a little bit of money in the summer next year.
Hey, right. I know you don't get rain in Australia. It's always blue skies and sunshine, mate, and 36 degrees. Have you come across the term clarty before?
I don't think I have. No,
yes, a new one. It's an educational show as well as a horticultural show. This one.
It is. Teach me.
Yeah, Clark.
Is he a player? We got Jack Clarty.
Apparently, he's in the championship team of the week, isn't he, Clark?
Nice.
Is it that time to wrap up yet? Or?
Not yet. It's just I'm going to give you a brief description of the word clart, mate. If you can imagine playing on a bog of a pitch, it's been raining for weeks. You step into it and your foot sinks into the mud, not even the turf. So you end up walking around like wearing spaceman boots. That's clart. That's clart. Yeah. So Peter Beardsley obviously had twinkle toes to be able to just sail across a clarty pitch. Love it.
He did. Just another one as well. Just another ex-Newcastle player has gone to Saudi Arabia. Gini Wijnaldum has gone to El.
I see. There you go. Wow.
Yeah,
well, we've seen a couple of transfers this morning as well. We saw, obviously, for those obviously in the Man United area, we've seen Eric Bailey. He's gone to Besiktas this morning as well. So obviously he was on loan last season, but he's obviously left now. Eric Bailey, who was a decent centre back in the day for Man United, has obviously left now and obviously gone off to not part of Ten Hag's plans. And obviously we're still seeing the fallout from Jadon Sancho at Man United, so a lot to watch there, as well as Ben Foster, the ex-goalkeeper, has chimed in and said if that was to ever happen back in the day, like we've covered on the show yesterday, but if we had ever done that under the likes of Alex Ferguson, then I'll read you the quote. If Alex Ferguson is the manager and Jadon Sancho does this, he will never see the light of day again for Man United. He will never play for the club. He'll never be allowed into the training ground. So as we thought, previous ex-managers back in the early days, probably wouldn't have stood for it, but these days it seems to be that you can get on social media and say whatever you want.
Football's gone soft, obviously, in the modern era, because you could guarantee the teacups would have been flying in that Manchester United dressing room if Sir Alex was there.
Yeah. Imagine a boot going into Jadon Sancho's face these days. What a What a world that would have been in. But
talks of Lascelles potentially going to Saudi as well. I mean, we'll have to watch that with interest. And Isaac Hayden as well. It hasn't been confirmed by the club yet, but he's completed, we believe, a season-long loan move to Standard Liège. And wish him well, because Hayden has been a good servant to Newcastle over the years. Unlucky with injury, but be great to see him, restart his football career, because nice lad, good lad in football, and as I say, a great servant at Newcastle, so wish him well.
Right, fellas, we're done and dusted. That's it for the morning. So Daz is up next with his mid-mornings on the Red, the Cat and the Toon. Rye, go and enjoy yourself. Have a great evening, mate.
Thank you.
And Macca and
guys.
Steve, have a good day ahead. We'll catch you same place tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, chaps. Have a good day.
Guys.
From Wickham to Whitley Bay, Stonygate to Shields, Doggy to Darlow Back Lane. Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across